welcome to the Two Jasons. I am Jason J. Rock Houston, and you are Jason Lee Beckwith, a legendary drummer from the greatest Kiss tribute band, Kissed Alive. And we have Bobby Richards, another extraordinary drummer in his own right.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
And today we're going to be talking about our top 5 live albums of all time.
Now, 5? Good. Because I tried to do 3 and I couldn't.
Yeah, you want to start with yours, Jason?
Well, I've got Kiss Alive. Obviously, is my favorite live album of all time. And let's just say this right out of the bat. Most live albums are not truly live.
Yeah.
So people's opinion that think Kiss Alive is not a valid live album because there's a lot of touching up on it. Name me one good one that isn't. You can't. But what you can do is name me one that wasn't untouched and should have been. How about the live Van Halen album that they put out live at Tokyo Dome? They could have polished that up.
Yeah, you go back to episode 1, we discussed that one, but which is kind of where I got the idea to do this. Now,
so I got Kiss Alive is my favorite live album of all time. Tribute, the Ozzy Osbourne live album featuring the one and only
Randy
Rhoads, man. That was amazing. Rock in Rio by Iron Maiden.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and live bootleg by Aerosmith.
It's still low mine.
No, I stole one from him.
Oh, man. That's old school, huh?
Yeah.
The bootleg with Aerosmith, the very first live album they did?
The very first one, yeah.
That was raw, drunk, and drugged.
And I have to say my 5th one is Return of the Champions, a live album with Queen plus Paul Rodgers.
Interesting.
A lot of people know that Queen is with Adam Lambert right now.
Yeah.
But before that, they got together with Paul Rodgers at a UK Hall of Fame award ceremony. And it was so damn good that it was clear that they needed to do more of it. And they ended up doing a couple tours, and they put out a live album and video from that tour called Return of the Champions. And I get goosebumps every time I listen.
And they did do one studio album. I do not know why it was not more successful. I'm thinking Paul Rodgers is a legend, but and it was interesting when they did the live stuff with Paul Rodgers. They added a few obviously Bad Company songs in the set. I don't know, Adam Lambert, maybe he's more like Freddie Mercury. I don't know what it is, but they've been more successful with him for whatever reason.
Yeah, I don't know. But I'll tell you what, I mean, the way they structured those songs, man, I don't know. Have you heard any of that?
It was phenomenal.
Oh,
Paul Rodgers, you cannot deny him anything.
And I totally agree with you about Kiss Alive. I mean, nobody had any clue for years that they went back in the studio and touched anything up. It was a well-guarded secret for years. Like you, I don't really care because even if it is, a lot of it was done in the studio, it sounds live to me. You put that on and I get that feeling like I was in the audience.
I've been to a Kiss concert. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. And so it doesn't really matter to me. I just remember, this is back in 1975 when records were still a big thing. People were still buying music.
Oh, I have it on vinyl.
They had these places called record stores. You could go and buy music. But do you remember getting Kiss Alive?
They still have them. There's Spin Records in Carlsbad, California.
Okay.
Blues Records in Encinitas. Shout out to both of those guys. And there's one in downtown Vista, California. I don't remember what it's called, but they're around.
Kiss Alive, though, you remember getting it and opening that double gatefold. There was nothing like that at the time. And that has to be number 1 on my list for a lot of reasons. Very first time I heard a live album, so that was my first kind of live album experience. So it always has a special place in my heart. And then live albums at the time were not really popular until a lot of bands did not come out with them until after Kiss. Now, one band that would be an exception to that is Deep Purple, made in Japan.
Well, they weren't moneymakers. They were considered throwaway albums.
Yeah.
This was the one that broke the door open.
Yeah, and what's interesting about Kiss Alive is the previous, Rock and Roll All Night was originally on Dress to Kill, but for whatever reason, it wasn't a huge hit until they released the single
because
off
those
of
first
Alive.
three albums, as you know, they weren't produced by rock producers. They were produced by the house producers at Casablanca.
Yeah.
And who was the other big name on Casablanca? Donna Summer.
Yeah.
They were produced by Disco, so they were very tight sounding,
Everything's compressed.
Right. Kerner and Eddie, Kerner and Wise was the production team.
Kenny Kerner and Richie Wise.
Made it sound like a dance song.
Yeah.
The reason why Kiss Alive sounds so good is 2 words, 3 words. Eddie Mother Kramer.
Yeah, and people forget Eddie Kramer was the guy that he produced the first Kiss demo. He produced the Ace Frehley 1978 solo. He went on to do Frehley's Comet, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, of course, before that. Legendary guy. And so going all the way back to the demo that got the band signed, Eddie Kramer did that. And so it's naturally that he already had that relationship with Kiss. And so he could go in the studio.
His mission was to make them sound on record like they sounded live. And that's the reason why none of those songs, those albums really did anything big, because they didn't sound like Kiss.
And to me, out of the first 3 Kiss albums, I think the first album, the debut album, sounds the rawest. But so I don't know why that people didn't react to that one.
I thought Hotter Than Hell.
I thought Hotter Than Hell. It had a lot of good stuff on there, and then Hotter Than Hell, Strange Ways. I mean, that was an Ace song, but of course he didn't feel comfortable singing it, so he gave it to Peter.
When's the first time you heard Kiss Alive? How old were you, man?
Let's see. I started playing drums at 10, maybe 13.
Yeah, yeah.
Way too long ago.
Oh yeah, I remember.
But the only thing, if you Peter Criss had said this in an interview, the only thing that is still untouched, uncut, or anything, because you can't replace them live. He did all the drum tracks. He says, I did them live. There's nothing I could touch up.
Except his solo is 3 solos put together.
Right, with all the flange and everything on it. But all the drum tracks, that's the only thing that's there that has never been manipulated.
They didn't have to read.
You can't do that to drums. When you play drums live, it's obviously not like a studio. What you get is what you get.
Since we're talking to 2 drummers here.
All that shit, but Ringo's a clock, man. He's a metronome.
Since we're talking to 2 drummers here, that is when Peter Criss was in his prime as a drummer.
Yeah,
without question. I can listen to that thing. I had it on, you remember the boom boxes, you put them up on your, and you walk around with them like that. The speaker right in your ear, right? Yeah, with a cassette. And if you really had a good one, it would play both sides. The little head would turn around. You didn't have to take the cassette out and flip it around, right?
Well, you had the dual cassette.
Yeah. You had a speaker right up to your ears. Heard them like this, right? And I would sit. Actually, my parents managed a self-storage place, and there's railroad track ran outside of the back building. So I would climb up on the roof, sit on the edge with that boombox. Wow. And I would listen to that over and over again while I tried to shoot lizards off the railroad tracks with my BB gun.
Yeah.
And I specifically remember, the song "Hotter Than Hell," and it starts off with that, right? But those first 2 hits, just sound so perfect in my ear. The way they were produced by Eddie Kramer, and just the chords that Ace, and it was almost like the 3 of them made one big power chord together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With Ace and Paul and Gene, they just made the perfect chord. And that opening 2 notes of that song, like Rain Man, man, I would stop, rewind, play, stop, rewind, play, over and over again. It was insane.
Yeah. And
I
you guys know
that drum solo forever, dude.
Yeah, as you guys know, when you're on stage, not everything always goes according to plan.
Oh, hell no.
Does it
The
ever?
reason-
Does it? Let's reverse that. If it does go according to plan, that's a rarity.
Well, I didn't know Jason was a comedian, man.
But don't bumps.
yeah.
More drums,
More
right?
drums.
Hey.
Well, see, I bring that up because I was reading the reason they had to go back in the studio. It partly was because Gene and Paul were banging the mics around, and they had all kinds of background noise. And like you said, the only thing they were able to really capture live was the drums. So that was a huge
All
reason.
those bombs and stuff they throw off the microphone levels. Yeah.
Yeah. And a couple interesting things I found out about Kiss Alive in doing research for tonight's show. I did not we all know it was recorded at Coba Hall, but come to find out, it was recorded at like 2 or 3 different shows, 3 different arenas.
Doesn't the album say Madison Square Garden though?
No, there
With
was
the big picture when you open it up?
yeah, but there's like I think there's New York,
said-
there's LA Forum. Most of it was I think
No,
both
no,
of
no.
the films, they had
Kiss
something.
Alive was recorded at Coba Hall.
Two guys holding up the
The back of it, they had the dudes in the back.
yeah, the guys on the back of it holding up the bed sheets or whatever they were.
It was
Now,
recorded
this is what
at
I got. It said,
concerts at Detroit, Michigan,
Yeah.
Cleveland, Ohio, Wildwood, New Jersey,
Yes.
and Davenport, Iowa.
Yeah,
So
but-
1, 2, 3, 4 cities.
yeah, and here's the interesting thing. Talk about rock and roll myth and legend. For years, everybody thinks it was recorded at Coba Hall. Part of it was, but not the whole thing. And part of that may be because Detroit Rock City was one of the first places that really embraced Kiss.
Oh,
And-
absolutely. They were headlining major venues in Detroit while they were still playing clubs everywhere else in the country.
And then if you look on the back of the
Funny
cover,
because they were a New York band.
yeah. Well, they were competing at the time, like with stuff like bands like the New York Dolls and stuff, where Kiss was a little edgier.
They weren't a New York band playing in the city like they weren't a CBGB's band, like Talking Heads or Blondie, right?
Yeah, they had
Moans and
these,
stuff
Right.
like
these
that.
snobbish kind of artsy bands that even the critics thought, oh, Kiss, they're not real
You
musicians.
know what's funny?
I played CBGBs.
Really?
Yeah,
What does it smell like?
your feet stick.
Yeah.
And we won't go into the smell, but to say you played that place, it's just classic. Everybody in there
Bones,
has
yeah.
played there.
Oh my God.
It's exactly what you think of, and add about 400 layers of badness to it. But it's
Yeah,
a great place.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, man, that's something else, huh?
And another
Yeah, they
thing we
were
should,
never one of those cool CBGB bands, so they played in like the places out in the
Yeah.
outskirts and stuff, and that's fine. You know what? I mean, I get it.
50 years later, Kiss is still doing it. Kiss is still
Yep.
here.
Who got
Yeah.
the last laugh, right?
Yeah. And the other thing we should bring up about Kiss Alive, if you look on the back cover, the famous photo is of those 2 fans like holding up a Kiss
Hold
sign.
up the bed sheet.
And I remember, I think it was 10 years later, Kiss invited those guys back to see them live, and they reconnected. How cool is that? As a
Yeah.
Kiss fan,
Kiss has always been about their fans. They get a lot of flack for being good businessmen, which I don't understand. You don't make records to lose money.
yeah, but
Anybody that gets mad at a band for being successful is freaking stupid. And
yeah,
I grew up in the punk rock, and
Yeah.
all that stuff, and I'm down with all that, man. But this idea that you're somehow less credible because more people like what you do,
yeah.
it's stupid. That just means you're doing something that a lot of people enjoy.
Yeah, but could you
Nothing
imagine?
wrong
I
with
mean,
that, man.
if you were those 2 Kiss fans, not only do you get on the back of this classic album, Kiss Alive, and you're known for that. I
Can
mean,
you imagine?
a little tiny footnote like that, in your life, but how cool would that be? And you're 2 of the most famous Kiss fans ever,
Yeah, contrast that with being the guy who was the baby on the Nirvana album cover, Nevermind,
Yeah,
the little naked baby swimming in the
Yeah.
pool.
Suing Nirvana. Yeah.
Well, he tried to make money off of it.
Yeah, just
Uh,
suing them.
Then he tried to sue them several times because
Yeah,
he
yeah.
couldn't monetize it. But here's the guy, I'm scarred for life. They'll always know me as the Nirvana Nevermind baby.
Yeah.
Dude has Nevermind tattooed on his freaking chest.
Hello.
He goes to events as an adult and recreates that photo.
Still
Yeah.
making-
I can't understand why he lost the lawsuit, Bobby.
yeah, right.
Now here's
But
the
yeah, no, I mean, those guys, can you imagine being
Yeah,
those
yeah.
guys in a concert?
I mean,
Pictures like
I
20.
mean, what a great story you would have.
With the two
What a great
pictures.
story you'd have.
Yeah,
Same two guys.
really.
Yeah.
What a great story you'd have. Hey, I'm a Nevermind baby.
Yeah. But and then the Ozzy Osbourne album with Randy Rhoads, man, I'll just keep it short and sweet on that and just go. I'll just go, look, Randy Rhoads was taken from us way too soon. We all know that. And he was an amazing guitar player. But everybody knows like Crazy Train and all the studio versions. But man, I'm telling you, if any of you guys out there like Ozzy music or a fan of really good guitar, get that specific live album, Tribute, with Randy Rhoads and Ozzy Osbourne. And not only is his guitar solo, it absolutely goes toe to toe, pound for pound with a live version of Eruption by Eddie Van Halen. I'll put the two of those, they're very similar. They start off and they're paced very similar. And you know, people have their opinions on that. Is it derivative or whatever? But for me, the high point of that album, they do a version of obviously Ozzy Osbourne songs because with Sabbath, because Ozzy was in Sabbath.
Sure.
And, you know, Randy never wanted to be compared to Tony Iommi, so he was shy about doing that stuff on the record. But they did a version of Children of the Grave that to this day, and I'm 52, man, that hands down is my favorite version. And that might be sacrilege because I'm talking about Sabbath.
Yeah.
That's the best version of that song I ever heard. You got Tommy Aldridge on drums. You got Rudy Sarzo on bass. It's the only album he's really on where his is on. He's not on Quiet Riot albums. He's not on Ozzy albums, but he's on that live album.
Yeah.
And then Randy and the solo, they make a whole instrumental section of Children of the Grave at the end with an outro solo that's not on their Sabbath version. And that solo, my Mount Rushmore of guitar solos in a song. It's amazing. Takes it to a whole nother place. And for me, he's going to guitar church on that song.
And if for no other reason than to get that album, it was out of print for many years. I think people could get it again now.
You can get it on YouTube.
That is like they only have a few live recordings of Randy, and that was the best one they could. That was the best stuff.
Very well produced. The sound on it is amazing, and Randy Rhoads absolutely earns his rock god status just on that live album right there, man.
Yeah. Okay. And you know, the only other thing I say Kiss related is the interesting thing I found out about. You know, Kiss Alive was of course a big breakout. All of a sudden, that album started going crazy. Everybody started coming to Kiss concerts, and interestingly enough, like 5 days before the album was released, Bill Aucoin, I find out, had sent a letter to Neil Bogart telling him, okay, Kiss wasn't happy with the way Casablanca was promoting the band, wasn't happy with the way the album was. They were getting ready to get out of their contract and go find another record deal. And then Neil Bogart right away, seeing the value in Kiss, he says, you know what? If you guys will just kind of hang in there a little longer, I'll write you a check for $2 million. And the rest, as they say, is history.
That's right. That's right. And then my last one that I want to talk about was Rock in Rio. It was recorded on the reunion tour with their original, well, not their original singer, but their classic singer, their most well-known singer, Bruce Dickinson. Yes, the Bruce Dickinson, right? You know,
legendary at this point. Yeah,
well, that was a Will Ferrell drop, but that's a deep cut. But they had just gotten back together with Bruce Dickinson. They did the album. What was that album?
Brave New World.
What's that? Brave New World.
Yeah.
And then they went out and did a world tour, and they recorded their concert at Rock in Rio, right? Mm-hmm. And that album and that video, to me, that's a blueprint. If you out there are in a band and you want to see how to properly do a live album, listen to that. And that's the best. They've done live albums before, and a lot of Maiden fans will probably say Live After Death. Okay? Yeah. Because that was during their prime, whatever. I'm telling you, they had a rebirth, because on that tour, they sounded every bit as good as they ever did. Matter of fact, more polished, more heavy. The voice sounded better on Bruce. all around, I thought that was an example of how to be a band 20, 30 years into your career and sound as good as you ever were. When
Plus,
people
at that,
say, oh, well, no wonder those guys don't sound that great. They're 30 years old as a band. Who can do that?
yeah, yeah. Plus, at that point in time, bands were still putting out, home videos and stuff, DVDs. And I love the fact that Iron Maiden was famous at that time. Okay, now I'm just going to release a live CD. We'll put out a companion DVD so you can see the show live if you want. You can buy.
I have that. I actually have the DVD in my house.
Yeah.
And I believe
VHS.
Yeah, right.
That's how old we are.
One of those are old. Yeah. But I
really
believe, we're talking about Kiss, right? And all this Kiss stuff around, like your thing there, my thing here.
Yeah.
I believe you had a Kiss album on your list.
I like the Kiss live too. I love it because of that one song we had on the intro.
Yeah.
Heavy song.
So you're saying your favorite Kiss song on that live album is one of the
It's one of the studio songs.
Who's the guitar on that?
Bob Kulick.
Kulick, the late great, yeah. And that's another thing. I will agree with Bobby. Kiss Alive won first for me, but Alive 2 a close second, only because I did dig the fact that, hey, okay, at that point in their career, they're still playing a lot of the classic stuff off the first 3 albums. They weren't playing enough of the newer material, and so they went and did those new studio
they had
tracks.
some money
as a
behind
Kiss
it. You
fan,
open it up, you look at the stage show. They had money by that time.
and
First Alive to the second Alive.
But they didn't have enough live ones to do 4 sides of material.
Right.
That's why they did those
the extra studio songs.
Ace was like,
as a Kiss fan, that's what I loved about it.
Go get Bobby K. I'm on vacation.
Yeah, right.
We're getting new tracks as well as some great live stuff. Okay, and for my number 2, I have to say Cheap Trick live at Budokan.
Told you that was one I had.
That's on his list.
I said you can't go wrong with that album.
Now you know why? Now, if you want any further proof, is a song "I Want You to Want Me." You go and listen to the original studio version of that. Sounds like a completely different song. Almost sounds like a twangy country song. When they did the Budokan version, I tell you, they kicked that song's ass and they gave it new life.
And that's the way they play it to this day.
Yeah.
It's iconic. Yeah. Oh, and how about their Fats Domino cover?
Ain't
that a shame?
Yeah.
Those first 3 songs?
Yeah.
Forget it. Yeah.
And again,
can't touch it.
Bobby brings up Kiss Alive 2. Cheap Trick happened to be the opening act on the Love Gun tour when they came to the LA Forum and they recorded Kiss Alive 2.
Yep.
So it kind of fits together. My number 3 would be Deep Purple Made in Japan, because great classic live album that was released in 1973, way before the other 2 albums. But interesting thing is Deep Purple was so against releasing. They didn't think they could capture their sound live. The record company was much more in favor, but they agreed to it, and it went on to become this massive hit.
Yeah, I think my favorite Burns on there, right?
Yeah.
Dude, that's insane.
Yeah.
Right?
Killer.
Well, actually, yeah. That was a great, that was great because again, Deep Purple for me is one of all-time greatest live bands. I mean, if you've ever been to, especially the original live, you ever been to a Deep Purple concert? I mean, they could jam out one song for like 30 minutes.
I saw them on the Deep Purple or the Perfect Strangers tour.
Yeah.
I didn't see him back in their prime, but I did see him on that tour, and man, it was he's shaking the organs,
And
And then my number 4,
Ian Gillan.
Yeah,
he does Child in Time.
My number 4 is Frampton. Frampton Comes Alive again. Right after Kiss Alive 3, a year later in 1976, Peter Frampton, previously of Humble Pie, this is his big. None of his solo albums were really selling well. But this is the album he is known for all these years later. They tried to follow up years later with Frampton Comes Alive too, but you just cannot top this.
No.
Yeah. No, it's like
that came in cereal boxes.
Yeah.
I think you and I had one song or one album the same on our list, because didn't you have Aerosmith Live Bootleg?
Right.
I stole that from his list.
See, there's so many albums we could have done a top 10, but unfortunately we probably ran out of time. But those are great ones. But then my number 5 would be Ted Nugent's Double Live Gonzo.
Live Gonzo.
Oh,
That was,
you didn't like Intensities in 10 Cities?
I mean, that was to me Ted Nugent in his prime too. Like when he was kind of really just fresh on the scene. It's sad because a lot of people they if he's into all this political stuff, that's his right to do that, And
I was going to ask you, does that affect how you see his music?
No, because Ted Nugent has always kind of been a badass to me, and all this political stuff is just him speaking his mind, and I don't see why he shouldn't have a right to say whatever his opinion is.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. Let's say and I'm not saying which side of this I'm on. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't got a dog in this fight, but let's say you're on the opposite side from him politically. Okay.
Yeah.
But you really like his music.
Yeah.
Politics is so divisive these days that the sides don't talk or debate anymore. They just fight, right? And they don't convince each other. No one changes their mind, right? So if you go to a Ted Nugent concert and you don't agree with him politically, but you still want to support his music, then you go there and he's not shy about discussing his politics.
Oh, no.
From a musician standpoint, and my costume has a mind of its own. From a musician standpoint, to me, it seems counterproductive to insert politics into a concert, because don't you want to play for everybody? Don't you want everyone to enjoy your music?
I guess I see both sides. I mean, if you go to a concert and that's all he's talking about in between the songs, maybe it's a little overkill. But on the flip side of that, like one of my all-time heroes,
go to the rallies, give a speech, go support your candidate. Sure.
I mean, maybe you could do more of that. I mean, I give you on the flip side of that though, like one of my all-time heroes, Dee Snider. You remember back in 1985, he went and he spoke up at those Senate hearings when they were trying to censor all the records, and he went in there and made all those senators look like a buffoon. There's this long-haired, freaky rock star guy, and then they were surprised. This guy actually sounds educated. He actually knows.
Who went with him?
John Denver. And Frank Zappa. There could not be 3 more different people, but they were all
perfect.
Which totally backfired on all the political stuff, because everybody's album sales went through the roof.
Yep.
And I bring that up because Ted Nugent, to me, at least he's being himself. He's being true. Whereas Dee Snider again has a right to his opinions, but Dee Snider was once the anti-establishment, and now I see him going on line and talking about stuff like shaming people for not wearing a mask or whatever. And again, that's his right to do so. But
I suppose if you really believe something, your core, whatever it is, if you feel that it's right, whatever the belief is, right? And you are in a position of influence that you can reach many people with your message. I can see, look, man, I believe in this so much that I'm going to take advantage of the pulpit that I have. And I'm going to tell people how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, there is that side. I mean, and then there's somebody like, and then there's the third side of that is somebody like Alice Cooper, legendary rock star. He's very much like you're saying. He does not mix. He does not get up on his soapbox and say. The only thing he really does, because he was a major alcoholic for years, and he's recovered he hasn't drank or anything for like over 30, close to 40 years now. So he helps people get sober and talks about that, which is a good thing to help people. But Dee Snider even recently, because Alice Cooper is his hero, and he's saying, "Oh, I think Alice should get political. I think Alice should get up on his soapbox." But my thing, like you, Jason, you do what you want to do. Don't worry about what other people do.
I just play, and I want to play with everybody. So it's like, if you're a Van Halen fan, do you want to play, Sammy or Dave? I like all of it. I'm just a fan of music, and I want to listen to all of it. I want to play to as many people as possible. I want to play to red states and blue states, and I want to play to straight people and gay people and trans people, and I want to play to everybody. I don't care if they, for some reason, like the music we're
Music
playing.
brings us all together.
Bring it on.
See, I'm with you. I mean, Steve, that's how I'm a little different. I could talk to anybody. You don't have to see eye to eye with me. You don't have to have my same view. I can respect you. I can think, okay.
Oh, sure, me too. I love the debate.
Yeah, that's what I miss. I mean, I see that I don't like people shutting other people down.
Yeah.
Well, you believe that way, so you're a bad person. You know, what I really hate is a virtue signaling. Okay, so this is what I believe in. I'm a good person. Okay, good for
A
you.
lot of virtue signal on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah. And but like you, I much rather if people can't do that. Okay, you know what? Music has a way of bringing people together. Even when they go to see Kiss Alive or they go see Bobby perform, you know, it's all about, yeah, you guys are really beating the drums. You guys get down. We can get down to this music. It has a way of bringing people together.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
You know, the number 4 on my list was one that was on his list too. It's Live Bootleg by Aerosmith.
Yeah.
Amazing, raw, gritty.
Very raw.
I'm sure they weren't straight at the time, and they'll
No.
probably freely admit it. And you can feel it ooze out of their pores, man. It's just the best version of Come Together I've ever heard, even though that's a cover.
Sure.
It's just raw. I don't know. Maybe they figured, hey, let's beat the bootleggers at their own game.
Right. But it is pretty much sounds like.
In fact, talking about that, I was reading the other reason Deep Purple released a live album back then, made in Japan, was the bootleg market was very heavy back in the 70s. People had a demand; they wanted to hear their bands live. There was a heavy trading market, so they decided, okay, rather than have a bootleg get out there, we want to have something official.
Yeah, no, I get it, and I hear you. I would too. You know.
Yeah.
My favorite track on Live Bootleg is probably Mama Kin, a song that I think
I always loved that song. I don't know why it wasn't I know they still play it to this day. I don't know why it isn't a bigger hit, but all the early Aerosmith stuff, that's one of my all-time favorites.
That was on your list too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny because people listening to this, they probably think that Helter Skelter is a Motley Crue song, but that's about as metal as the Beatles ever got, you know, and people
Dude,
don't
that's
realize
the original metal.
Yeah.
He heard some interview with, I want to say Pete Townsend, or somebody from the Stones, I forget, one of those two, and he said, "Man, we just recorded. We were in the studio and we just recorded the heaviest, dirtiest rock song ever." And apparently Paul heard that and took it as a challenge. "Oh, right, you did a heavy song, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me show you what I can do." And that's when they did Helter Skelter.
And you know, people would probably laugh when they hear me say that. You probably wouldn't think of Queen as a metal band, but okay, you want to go there. Queen, Stone Cold Crazy,
was a live album,
Stone Cold
right?
Crazy, Liar. That's about as metal as they got, but they were.
Hey, it was good enough for Metallica.
Yeah. And so you know, and I mean, Queen was one of those bands. They were. I mean, even if you look at a track like Killer Queen, that's practically rock and roll vaudeville.
Let me ask you guys a question. I'll start with you. Okay, Queen. Obviously, Queen. Freddie Mercury
was my very first concert ever.
Is Queen.
How lucky are you? Wow.
Really? What?
Yeah. My very first concert, Madison Square Garden, 16 years old, snuck it. Went from Jersey on the train into the garden underneath.
Wow.
And that's what was what was that called? World. What's that one?
News of the World.
News of the World.
Yeah.
That was that tour. My very first concert, 16 years old.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Snuck on the train, went underneath,
What does a ticket to Queen cost during that time?
Maybe $10.
Yeah. Hey, before you guys, it was great doing this today. And Bobby, you're welcome back anytime. Before we wrap it up,
thank you so much, man. Thank you.
I want to ask you guys, do you plan on seeing the movie coming out Friday, Spinning Gold, the Casablanca story?
Really? Oh yeah, I'm gonna check it out.
Go online and type in Spinning Gold. You'll see that they have a Facebook page. They have a neat
Is
little
it gonna be on
trailer.
Netflix or is it just coming through their site like a Louis C.K. special?
It's going to be in the movie theaters Friday, March 31st. It comes out. It's basically Neil
trip.
Bogart. I'll send you some stuff so you can check it out.
We'll go and we'll shoot cell phone footage from it.
Yeah, I want to do a future episode. That's why maybe if you guys want to go see the
not
movie.
bootleg it. No.
No, but go see the movie. It's basically the Neil Bogart Casablanca story.
Yeah,
It's not just about Kiss. It's about Donna Summer. It's about the Village People. But basically Neil's story told by his son, who's the director.
I can't wait to see that. By the way, I want to tell everybody that my birthday, August 4th, for the first time in the 10-year history of my band, Kissed Alive, we're finally playing a proper casino show in my home territory here, because we've been playing casinos all across the Western U.S. for 10 years now, but we've never played a proper casino gig in San Diego County. So August 4th, I want everybody, go to the website now, August 4th, Sequan Casino, El Cajon. When my family moved to the West Coast in the 80s, and we made the big wagon train trek west, we landed in El Cajon. Sequan Casino is in El Cajon.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.
I'm telling you, we're going to throw a hell of a party.
Happy birthday, Jason Lee. We will see you. And please, Bobby, come back whenever you want.
Very much.
Okay? It's great having you.
Go see Light Up the Sky, a tribute to...
No tribute.
It's not a tribute.
We're not doing a tribute.
It's a salute to the music of Van Halen.
And I hope we start seeing some ads soon for that. Take care, my friends. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you very much.